Well, the Rand didn't like the finance minister's medium-term budget taking a dive following his speech. Tito Mboweni telling MPs that Gauteng's e-tolls are going nowhere and saying Eskom won't be getting spending money, merely loans going forward. Now, I'm now joined in the studio by the Deputy General Secretary of the National Council of Trade Unions, NACTU, Edward Tobejane, as well as First Deputy President of COSATU, Mike Shingange. Good evening to both of you gentlemen, and thanks very much for coming through. First, your reaction to the budget speech overall?
Yeah, evening Vuyo, and evening to your listeners. Yeah, I think Vuyo, we were listening to Minister Mboweni when he was addressing the nation this afternoon. And to us as NACTU, we don't see any some sort of changes on what Minister Mboweni is saying because of we believe that the ruling party has been repeating the same thing for the past 25 years. On what he said, that no, they'll try not to give them executive increase, provincial, what you call premiers increase. It is a drop in the sea because of, we feel that no, I mean the very same Eskom that is talking about, the very same SAA that is talking about, those are state-owned entities. And we believe that those state-owned entities, they were supposed to provide jobs to the South Africans. But instead of providing jobs to the South Africans, it has been a looting. All of us, we know. All state-owned enterprise, they are technically bankrupt, as you're speaking. Maybe we can count one or two that at least are still trying their best. But the rest of them, there's nothing in the pot. And we believe that, no, what Minister Mboweni said today is not going to assist the process going forward. It's not going to uplift the economy going forward. I mean, we believe that, no, the minister was supposed to tell the nation that, no, at least those billions that have been chowed, how are they going to recover them from those people who are still having them? Yeah, that's exactly our submission. Thanks very much.
Mike Shingange?
Good evening.
Your thoughts overall?
Well, it's a mixed bag for us. If you consider the fact that just yesterday the unemployment rate percentage went up, what we will have as a nation expected, particularly the poor and the working class, would have expected a plan on how to at least stop the job bloodbath that we are seeing in the country. To how do we hold the ever-rising unemployment rate that has been consistently for the past 3 quarters going up. We didn't hear a single word of such things in terms of creating jobs, but also stopping the rising of unemployment. There was no mention in the Minister Mboweni's statement about the Presidential Job Summit and the Investment Summit that took place last year, within which the content of those agreements was to get the parties together to look into how to have a moratorium on retrenchments, but also get new ideas on how to create jobs. That's what one part. There are positives because if you will have listened to the minister a few weeks ago, including on his economic recovery document that he has released some time ago, there will have been an assault on the range of worker rights, including collapsing the national minimum wage, which has just been signed 10 months ago, including collapsing the spirit of collective bargaining discount. There was no such a rhetoric today. We're quite pleased about that. There was no mentioning about selling off the coal generators in the Eskom, including privatizing Eskom. We're quite happy of the progress we're making there, and we welcome the release of the document which we're going to engage with in the network. In fact, we welcome that some of the things that he used to pronounce today, when he pronounced them, he made a point that there will be in engagements in the proper forums like bargaining councils. We welcome, because that's where we're going to be engaging with.
Do you think, though, that necessarily that by not mentioning, not talking about the minimum wage, for example, that necessarily means that it's off the table or there's been a change of heart on the part of government?
We hope so. We hope there's been a change of heart, in particular when such things are pronounced and undermining other avenues that are there that are part of the collective engagement. For instance, the issue of net leg, the issue of bargaining council, because you can't just say willy-nilly ignore the existing legislations but also existing policies that are supposed.
So you at least appreciate the fact that there's a respect for processes.
Exactly. That's what this country deserves. That's what workers deserve. One of the measures that the minister raised on the things that he thinks are needed, for instance, the capable state, and he spoke about the well-functioning banking sector. We hear that, but as long as it doesn't talk about process of the state establishing a non-for-profit bank owned by the state, that's going to intervene in making finances accessible for those who want to start small business down there. It has been proven that the big corporates are not capable or are not willing, as evidence have shown, to create jobs. At the slightest provocation of economic problems, they rush into retrenching workers. The government, like even today, he mentioned a number of other measures that seems to appease the big corporate. They've reduced the corporate tax over the past with the hope that they are going to create jobs or at least secure the jobs that are there. That has not happened. So our hope of creating jobs is in the small business, coming business that are struggling to get funding from the commercial banks because are ridiculously high rate, that are struggling to access land because land is not in the hands of the people, it's not in the hands of the government. They have to buy land in order for them to establish business. Unless and until we focus at that level, we'll continue to struggle in terms of creating jobs in this country.
Edward Tobejane, you're saying the minister didn't talk about recovering monies, but he did give a 1.3 billion rands to the NPA, 1 billion rands to the South African Revenue Service, and that is to fight crime, to ensure that those who looted the money are prosecuted and money is recovered. That was spelled out.
Yes, we understand that one for you. But what is important here and what we'd like to believe is that the minister is chasing the time now because of these things that happened long ago. We're speaking about more than 10 years ago, and they're only reacting today. Remember here, we are talking about one person who's the minister, but there is a government. That is the under-ANC government.
But we know the history to that. Do you not think that there has been, or what he said today and what he and his cabinet colleagues and what his president have been saying, are you saying that that doesn't give you enough
No.
to go with?
We are not convinced, and I'll tell you why I'm saying this. Majority of ministers, they were ministers even before President Cyril comes in. The current president was the deputy president when all these things, lootings were happening. And all of them, they were quiet. None of them stood up and said, no, guys, can we go and start getting funds that belong to this country from those individuals? It has never happened. Now, what is happening is that workers continue losing their jobs every day. Employers continue saving Section 189 every day for consultation to dismiss workers. And now today, minister is talking a different language with his cabinet, with the leadership of the ANC, and as if it's the new thing. It is not the new thing. It has been happening for you. And we have never seen some sort of changes. We believe that as NACTU, that I think it's the high time that the South Africans can open their eyes and decide tomorrow. Because really, we believe as NACTU that with the current administration, this country goes down the drain. And if this country continues down the drain, what's going to happen tomorrow? Because of it was worse yesterday, today is more than worse. We all hear what the minister is saying. But to us, it's not, we regard that as a repetition, because that repetition is not taking us anywhere. We believe that these ministers should have come up with something different that will try to convince all South Africans. But what happened today, we were all listening, it's just a repetition, and we believe that as NACTU, we are not going anywhere.
Well, here's what SARS Commissioner Kis Vetam had to say about what they hope to do with the money that has been allocated to SARS.
I think the important thing is, firstly, to redirect our current efforts with our current resources to have a higher level of impact. And we know that currently SARS is suboptimal. And that doesn't require more money, it just requires a more diligent and focused approach to the work we do. Then secondly, to make sure we use the additional money to build in areas where we believe we need to beef up. So firstly, a concern that I have is in areas of specialized auditing, where we have found a proliferation of aggressive tax planning by corporates and wealthy individuals. A second area is also obviously an important protection of our borders, where we need to defend customs fraud and VAT fraud. And then thirdly, sadly, as a reflection of the level of lawlessness in society, we need to expand and improve our capability to fight tax fraud and just criminal syndicates who enter the system to fleece the system of. So companies are created purely for stealing VAT.
When our discussion continues in a moment, we'll be talking about South African Airways, Eskom, and how the minister's pronouncements will affect workers in those state-owned enterprises.